Let's bring in Pat Forde, Sports Illustrated senior writer and a college football insider. Good morning, Pat. A lot to digest over the weekend. Where are you going to start? Let's start with Lincoln Riley.
Got to start there. I mean, it's the biggest college to college coaching move I can remember. Usually people don't leave Oklahoma unless they're retiring, maybe going to the NFL, maybe a scandal chased them out. To go leave Oklahoma for another job is remarkable. And I think it says a lot, Dan, about where Oklahoma is heading. And I'd say Lincoln Riley, while he may be running to the beach in LA, he's also running away from the SEC, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, I brought that up, and I don't know. I haven't heard, but I just figured if you had a chance to play for a national championship or continue your run, you got a better chance at USC than I think you do taking Oklahoma into the SEC. Is that fair to say, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say. Certainly, and we'll hear what he says at the press conference today, although I'd imagine, it's going to be all about why USC is a wonderful place, which it is. But what's the one thing that has changed? It's where Oklahoma is going to make its conference affiliation. And he changed when that changed. So I look at it and say, all the advantages that he had at Oklahoma in terms of being able to dominate a conference, recruit where you want and who you want, less competition, less, just bloodthirsty week in and week out battles. And you can still play for a national championship, especially if and when we get the expanded playoff, which should be soon. I'd go to USC as well.
How blindsided was Oklahoma?
I think they were pretty blindsided. I talked to somebody there last week who took great umbrage, and I was inquiring about LSU because that's where the smoke was. But I took great umbrage. So why do people always say that our coaches would leave? They said that about Bob Stoops and he didn't leave. Now they're saying about Lincoln. I don't think he's going to leave. There's no indication he's going to leave. Then all of a sudden he's going to leave. So something at the very end of the week, whether it was Friday, whether it was Saturday, I think things started to percolate and there became a little bit of turbulence there. But I don't think Oklahoma saw this coming until very late in the game.
All right. What's Oklahoma do? What's LSU do?
Those are great questions. It's interesting to me that Bob Stoops steps in as the interim, and he may just do like Barry Alvarez did and just say, look, I'm going to coach this bowl game and enjoy it, and that's it. What if Bob Stoops says, you know what, I like this. I'd like to stay. I'd like to be the head coach. I mean, I'm not sure that's out of the question. I know the release from Oklahoma yesterday did not say I am only coaching the bowl game, period. It just said he would be the interim coach for the bowl game. If not him, hey, his brother is doing a heck of a job at Kentucky and maybe realizing he's scraping the ceiling of what Kentucky could do. What better place to go than Oklahoma and have the backing of your legendary brother there, who knows everyone and everything about that program. The other option, I think, Matt Campbell, who's at Iowa State and has had 5 straight winning seasons there, which hadn't happened at that school since the 1920s. So I think that's where that list starts. LSU, I don't know, man. I mean, Mark Stoops could be in play there. I still have some people saying that they may take a last-ditch swing at Jimbo Fisher. There's been some talk about NFL candidates, but the LSU situation has gotten really intriguing.
All right, let's look at what you think the playoff rankings are going to look like tomorrow night, and then let's handicap as we move into the following weekend. So how's it play out tomorrow night?
I think Georgia 1, Michigan 2, probably Cincinnati 3, and then the real intrigue. I'm sorry, you probably have Alabama still in there. I would say that, whether the 3 or 4. The intrigue to me is who's going to be 5 and 6 and in what order between Notre Dame and Oklahoma State, because I anticipate Alabama losing to Georgia and opening up that 4th spot. And then is it Notre Dame or is it Oklahoma State? And I do think it's interesting that in both of the human polls, the top 25s, that Oklahoma State jumped ahead of Notre Dame in those. And so people may be kind of setting the stage there, especially since Notre Dame doesn't have another game, for Oklahoma State to slide into that 4th spot if Alabama does lose.
The fallout from Michigan's win is what?
It's huge, I think. I mean, just massive for Jim Harbaugh. His finest day, obviously, in that job, something they've been waiting for 6 years. And I think ever since that 4th and 1 spot for JT Barrett in 2016, his program stalled and then declined. And now this shoots it back up with a vengeance. And they're 60 minutes away against Iowa if they don't have a letdown from going to the playoff. And let's be frank, Michigan's been a great program for a long time, but they haven't been a national championship competitor in a long time. It's been quite a while, and now they've got a shot to do it. You finally get over on your nemesis. You get into the playoff. You take those defensive ends in that running game. Take your chances against anybody.
How valuable, though, do you think that Alabama win over Auburn is in the eyes of the playoff committee?
I don't think it's super valuable. I mean, it kept them from being eliminated, but that was a life and death struggle to beat a 6-6 team. So, I mean, I look at them. I have not been that sold on Alabama all year. I would certainly have them no higher than 4th right now, and possibly 5th or 6th in my rankings. I think that they are missing, obviously, a lot of incredible talent from last year's team, but I think a little bit of the just veteran leadership too that went with that's gotten them into some really some close, tough games against mediocre competition.
What if Alabama beats Georgia?
If Alabama beats Georgia, then I think the playoff's pretty easy. Then if the other games go according to plan, it's Georgia, it's Alabama, it's Michigan, it's Cincinnati. And then, I mean, you could have an argument, I suppose, for Oklahoma State versus Cincinnati. That would be where the tension would lie. We always got to have some tension, Dan, even if we got to make it up on the last day. But if Alabama wins, then the SEC gets 2 in, and everybody starts complaining about that.
I just got my Heisman paperwork. Who is the leading candidate? Do we have it? It's like the MVP in the NFL. I don't know if we have a leading candidate. And with the Heisman, is Bryce Young the Heisman winner, de facto Heisman winner?
I don't know. He was bad for 58 and a half minutes. Then he was great. I mean, honestly, I look at it this way: is usually the best players on the best teams become the Heisman favorites as long as they're offensive players. This year, the best players on the whole top 6 are all defensive players. Georgia's best player is Jordan Davis. He's a nose tackle. Michigan's best player is Aiden Hutchinson. He's a defensive end. Alabama's best player is probably Will Anderson, the linebacker. Yeah. Cincinnati, Sauce Gardner probably there. Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. Oklahoma State, Malcolm Rodriguez, linebacker. I say let's just put a 1, 2, 3 defensive players on the Heisman ballot and burn the whole place down.
I like it. I would love to be able to give, and I've been on this kick for a long, long time. I go back to when the Broncos beat the Packers in the Super Bowl. The Broncos offensive line won that Super Bowl, but you can't make them MVPs. You have to give it to one person. Georgia's defensive unit. I mean, can we give them little Heismans?
I'd be in favor of that, because that's the thing. I mean, like, Jordan Davis is the best player, but his stats are minuscule because he's a nose guard. What he does is just gum up the line and everybody else makes the tackles, So, yeah, it's tough to quantify, but they deserve it. That is by far the best unit in America, either side of the ball. And really, they're on like historic record-setting pace.
What game are you going to next weekend?
I will be in Atlanta for the Tide and the Bulldogs.
Safe travels as always, Pat. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
That's Pat Forde, Sports Illustrated senior writer. He was at the Alabama-Auburn game. He's known as a college football insider.